Hello and welcome to the Level Up Lounge, our first episode of 2025. So welcome back to everyone who's joined us. I'm John, I've got Dwayne with me today.
Howdy.
And we have a guest who we're very keen to introduce to you. So this is the newest member of the Level Up team. So welcome, Michael Barrett.
Hello.
Hello, welcome
How's it going?
So first of all, welcome to Dubai, welcome to Level Up, and welcome to the Level Up Lounge.
Thank you so much. Really pleased to be here. Really pleased to be here in Dubai. Really pleased to be here with you two and the rest of the team. Really appreciate the warm welcome, and I'm really excited to sort of, get started. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So perfect. So today we wanted to use this as an example to let people know a little bit more about your background. Talk about your career in gaming, because you have quite a varied and not a traditional recruiter's background when we talk about gaming. So we want to explore that, who you've worked with, the type of stuff that you've done, and really get to know you from a gaming perspective about what made you fall in love with gaming and everything that we normally do on the show. But obviously we want to start with Dubai. Now you've arrived in Dubai just last week. So we kind of want to understand from you, first impressions. How are you finding Dubai so far?
Wow, glorious. Such a change from London, obviously, where it's winter, very cold. So I've come here and I can feel the heat on my back and I'm like, wow, it's summer. Right. Very tall buildings, great energy, very safe, very clean city. Really good feel about Dubai. Really cool.
And apart from coming and wanting to work with me and Dwayne, what was your motivations about wanting to come out to this region and work out here?
I really believe there's a business confidence here. The area is thriving. I think there's a lot of investment here. There's a lot of kind of wanting to improve. I think the underlying climate here is strong. I think that's kind of one of the biggest reasons why. I want to be in an area where I'm around a lot of other people and other companies who are striving to be excellent and want to succeed and be the best, right? So, and I believe Dubai is that place for me. Yeah.
You've come to the right place in that. And I'm not going to say get you to reel off a big list, but what would you say maybe your top one or two favourite things about Dubai so far have been?
I would say I like the metro in a weird way. I'm not sure if other people would say that, but
it's a lot cleaner than the underground.
It is like it's very pleasant actually. So I think just the seeing all the buildings here, the kind of like. It symbolises a lot about this region for me. It says a lot. There's just like you see the towers going up. Dubai is growing. This region is growing, and you can see it. Just by looking everywhere around you. And you're like, wow, that's going. It's a sign of what's to come. It's a sign of what's already here. You see already what is here, and then also it's still. It's still going. So it's just exciting to see that energy. So.
Decent. And I want to talk to you a bit about your background and your career path that kind of led you over, obviously, to here to Dubai. But what you started in esports, can you tell me a bit about that? How did you get into it, and what heights did you get to in esports as well?
Yeah, look back at my time in esports very fondly. Absolutely loved my time in esports. I was good, right? To be in esports, you have to be good. It started off back in around FIFA 2006. Yeah. So it's quite a while back now, but I was playing at very high level. I was ranked like number 1 in the UK online, number 4 in the world. I was the UK champion playing FIFA. And I've played in several world finals. Representing the UK at FIFA Interactive World Cup, Championship Gaming Series, World Cyber Games, and that's given me an opportunity as well to travel around the world. So I've been to Los Angeles like twice, for weeks and weeks on end. Playing for huge sums of money alongside other very talented and excellent gamers who, that's another really cool part about esports as well, is the fact that you get to meet a lot of the players that you're competing with online, and you get to meet them in real life and compete with them in real life, and you're in that environment where like your competitiveness is on show against others, and it's not like when you're at home competing, obviously trying to be the best, but then you're in the room, you're trying to be the best, and that's where you're really found out have you got it or not. I'm a very competitive person, and so I loved esports because it allowed me to be very competitive and sort of demonstrate that kind of winning mentality that I think I have when it comes to kind of just like trying to win, right? So love esports and love trying to win, and I think I was very, very successful, so
Decent.
Still reckon I can take you.
Do you reckon? What would the score be if you guys played?
Probably double figures.
First half as well. In terms of your academics as well, you studied computer games production. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Did you want to be a product director or work in the kind of production side of gaming, or was there other areas you wanted to get into, such as design as well?
Yeah, so I think my underlying sort of like passion for video games really contributed to me wanting to be in the computer game industry, right? Yeah. And so at the time I was like, okay, how do I make this happen? And so I saw a course in computer game production where I was studying many different areas, so environment art, production, VFX, animation, and then from that I really wanted to be an environment artist, and so I definitely sort of tried, and then I think sort of during that period I didn't really kind of hit I think that the sort of desired kind of level, it was very, very, I think I just found it difficult at the time. And I also felt like creating the games was a lot different to playing the games. Right. So, just sort of didn't really kind of manage to sort of hit the level required to be an environment artist. So that was kind of what I wanted to do. And then went from there really. Went from there into computer game recruitment.
Fair enough. And obviously, look, we'll come on to the company shortly, but you've worked on both sides of the fence in terms of you've done in-house recruitment, working as an internal recruiter, and you've also done it from the agency perspective where you're working with multiple companies at the same time. What would you say the key differences are between internal and agency?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I'll just start by saying that with both, you need to be an excellent sourcer. You need to be able to attract excellent talent. You need to be able to kind of understand what's going on out there in the market. With agency, you are working sort of a lot more widely spread, right? So you're working with many different clients, and so maybe you won't necessarily have kind of the closest understanding of like some of the things that are happening inside the business, just because you're kind of more just sort of more widely spread, right? Whereas internal, because you do have such a sort of close interaction with the business, you are going to understand a few more things like just the day-to-day interaction, right? Which you might not have on the agency side, but there are different things there, really. But underlying, you need to have an excellent understanding of the market. You need to who's who, all the different clients. You need to know what's going on there. Whereas I think when it comes to internal, there are other things like sort of like operations, there's DEI, there is data, there's like stakeholder management, there are those aspects. Whereas, in agency, you are, just more widely spread, which I think is awesome because you're not just working with the one client, then you can have a really big impact working with studios all over the world. And I think that's awesome.
Cool. And obviously when you were internal, you had some really good experience with both Mediatonic and Epic Games, but you were there when the kind of acquisition happened. What was that like, going from like an indie studio into like a massive corporate entity such as Epic?
Yeah, really quite something. I mean, my time with Mediatonic, really amazing. I mean, I've seen the growth of the studio, and the release of Fall Guys, which has been an amazing success. And then Epic, came on board. And when I realised that Epic were actually acquiring Mediatonic, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Because Epic Games is such an unbelievable studio. It's like, it's kind of as big as it gets, right? So, just an amazing experience, really. Going in-house, working with Mediatonic, and kind of getting to see what it's like working in a studio, and then going from Mediatonic to Epic, which was different, yeah, for sure. Because Mediatonic, it was a team of like 4 or 5 in the TA team. Going into Epic, you're now a part of a TA team of like 40 people, right? So, different things to navigate there, different processes, different systems, the sort of scale. A lot going on there, really. So a lot to take on board. Just an exciting part of the journey I've had so far, for sure. Going from a company going into Mediatonic alone was already amazing. Yeah. And then going into Epic as well was like another step up, for sure.
What were the biggest highlights from each studio?
So with Mediatonic, I'm very, very proud of my time there. I hired about 60 people into the studio.
Nice.
And that was across different disciplines: art, animation, some general business roles, HR, data, being in the studio. Unfortunately, I was only able to be in the studio with everyone for around about 6 months or so, before essentially, everyone got sent home for COVID. So it's kind of strange. Like, I've been working in-house, but at the same time, I've been working remotely almost for like the last 5 years. So that's kind of been an interesting part of my journey as well, just like the underlying COVID journey, which everyone's been a part of. But I wouldn't necessarily say I had like the entire kind of internal experience since I was working internally, just because I was working remotely for like 99% of the time, right? So, So with Mediatonic, I would say, just getting to understand what it's like to work in a studio where it's kind of like really manic, loads going on, people moving everywhere, understanding what it's like to kind of have that interaction with the hiring managers face to face, and just sort of navigating all of that, internally. And then, I think just the general success of Mediatonic, I would never have realised that Fall Guys was going to be the success that it was, and it just proved to be such a standout success. I mean, it was unbelievably successful, which was incredibly, rewarding. Just to
what
see
about
that.
Epic?
With Epic, with Epic, very, very proud of sort of just like, the ability to kind of move into a sort of wider TA team, and understand like the scale at which like a really big organisation is operating at. There are certainly differences there, like everything is at scale, and yet you could look at it as though everything is like at a sort of smaller level as well, because of all the sort of additional little steps that you might have to go through to kind of go through a process, understanding all the different systems, and then understanding the quality bar as well, right? With the candidates, because Mediatonic, the quality bar was very, very high. We were hiring from the best studios, and with Epic again, it was like sort of almost getting towards the best of the best.
Top 1%.
Absolutely, yeah. So understanding that quality bar was and sort of adapting to that quality bar, and adapting to the hiring managers that you're working with who are operating at that quality bar. Things I'm very proud of.
Amazing.
Definitely.
What were the biggest challenges you faced during your time there overall?
So I think I mentioned COVID, but I think I think COVID was something like for me personally, like working remotely. That was new for me in my career. So having to adapt to that was certainly something that I had to do and be sort of actively thinking about. Let me see. I think there were some challenging times, at the studio. I'd say Epic more specifically, just in terms of kind of like underlying sort of operational sort of things, in terms of just like the sort of economy that we're in at the moment, right?
I was going to say the industry challenges that have been faced over the last few years, Epic being the beast that they are still not exempt from what the market has been going through. So you've seen, from an outsider looking in, the challenges that everyone's faced within the industry, Epic included. So I think that working from an internal perspective, from an agency it's not so much, but from an internal perspective, you're really hit by those challenges that the industry has faced, whether it be global layoffs or recessions or whatever it might be. There has been challenges for studios such as Epic over the last few years that people have had to deal with.
100%, and that's been very, very difficult to see. It's not just Epic, it's been the wider industry as a whole, which has been really kind of hit very intensely by layoffs, and a lot of people have been kind of losing their jobs, and so internally, for example, let's say that we were not hiring as much, how do you adapt to that, right? So what can you be doing in that time where you're not necessarily hiring as much as you were? So for me personally, I put a lot of time into research and showing the rest of my team what the sort of like market looks like, like sharing the knowledge in terms of all of the different clients that are out there, who's there, building the internal systems of candidates, setting up a system where you can actually demonstrate candidates, to the rest of the recruiters. That took a lot of work. It was kind of like building the internal system with like 50,000 plus candidates. And that was something I was very proud of there, for sure. Just really improving my own knowledge of the market, and who's out there, and at a very detailed level, and how that relates to Epic as well. So always
pretty
adapting.
Decent time.
Yeah.
Obviously, question for both of you, because you're both previously with Epic Games, and having both worked on something as large as Fortnite, and having that contribution piece of knowing that this was something that I've contributed for, do you get that real sense working for that internal team to go, you know what, I've contributed to that huge title, what is being played by millions globally? Does that give you that real sort of sense of satisfaction in your day-to-day job?
Absolutely. Certainly because of the difficulty involved in finding the candidates for a company like Epic. I'll give you an example. I mean, there was a lead concept artist position that was open there, right, for more than a year, and I managed to fill that. And so, you're working with a company like Epic where the quality bar, they're not going to actually drop that quality bar because they can't. And so when you do find that person, and they are contributing at a really high level for a company like Epic, and that candidate's output is dramatically contributing to the game's success, you can't help but feel like you are having a really strong impact. And so, the more people you hire, the bigger the feeling is, for me personally, for sure. So, I definitely feel like, Mediatonic as well, if you make loads of hires and then the game is, a big success, you've had a big impact, because if those people were not there, then the game might not have been the success that it was. So, definitely very proud of.
The first thing that popped to my mind was, I think there was a little kind of pinch me moment when we saw our names on the credits for their games, and I think that's always just a special moment in any recruiter's kind of life, especially if you're working on games, to see your name on the credits. Yeah. It's like, I worked on that. That's pretty cool. It's not something you get, I think, in most areas or most jobs, so it's very, very rewarding, to be honest.
Yeah, no, and I think that's where the satisfaction of working directly within the industry, you get that.
Yeah.
On the agency side, not so much. Yes, you've contributed to that build of that game by hiring the team, but you're not as rewarded or appreciated from a visual perspective as you would have from an internal piece. But obviously now you've arrived in Dubai. You've followed in Dwayne's footsteps, who's ex-Epic, now here as well. I want to understand from you what your goals and plans are for your time in the region. Obviously, you got in touch with me some time ago and had seen the noise, what was happening in the region, the Dubai program for gaming, the announcements around the job creation and the goals that everyone was set out to try and achieve. And you wanted to be a part of that, which me and Dwayne, when we saw that, we're like, okay, this person is buying into what the region's doing, and that's what we need to come and join our team in order to help from our perspective, try and help that to be achieved. So coming here now, what are your aspirations for what you might do in your time whilst in Dubai?
I really want to just be very, very successful at contributing to the ecosystem in this area and also around the world, right? Not just here, but also in Europe and North America as well, working with clients around the world, right? And so I know, like, just, you know, to speak about, you know, recently there, you know, you having, you know, contributed to a studio and putting the talent in there, that, you know, is a big thing. It really is. Every single person that joins a studio is going to impact that studio, and it could result in creating an amazing game, right? And so my aim is to help the studios in this region attract the best talent in the world to their studio so that they can potentially make amazing products, right? And so that's going to elevate the, I think, the reputation and the sort of prestige and the appeal of this region in the video games world, right? Because I'm not, you know, this region is sort of still in its infancy. I think it's still, you know, getting off the ground, and it's, you know, there's so much potential here. And so being here, you know, I want to be a part of the success of this region. So, you know, I hope to help businesses, our clients, be as successful as possible in this region. That's my overarching objective here, definitely.
Good. And on that, obviously you were from the outside looking in, obviously based in the UK, watching what was going on here. How do you feel the perception, so you had your perception on this region, but how do you feel the perceptions of the games industry outside of the Middle East and now looking, when they look at what's happening here, what's happening in Saudi, whether it be the acquisition of Scopely, whether it be the investment from PIF, everything that's happening in this region, how do you feel that that's being perceived from a global audience now? Because there's a lot of concerns in this region about, are we able to attract a certain caliber of talent? Is talent going to leave a AAA studio in the US, in the UK, in Europe, in Asia, wherever it might be, and come to the Middle East? Whether that be Saudi, or whether it be the UAE, or whether it be one of the other surrounding GCC countries. How do you see that perception from someone who's not been here for long at all?
It's a really interesting question, this. I mean, the Middle East, yeah, is a region which is not, I think, typically known for gaming, right? And so, as I mentioned, it's in its infancy, and so I wonder if people will look at that as though, you know, it's, you know, there's a risk associated with that, or, you know, it's not necessarily as well established. But, you know, when you see the news about all of the different kind of like big investments, all of the studios that are getting started up, all of the sort of companies that are in existence in other parts of the world that are setting up their studios here, that's your proof that this region is, you know, it's not on the down, it's going up, you know. And so if you are, you know, wanting to be in an area where there is business confidence, there is investment, there is a will to succeed, you know, this region, when you compare it to other areas in the world, I think that the evidence suggests that this region is going in a right direction, and it's not to say that other regions in the world are not going to be, you know, going in a sort of, you know, that direction again, but, you know, you've got to, I think there's reasons to be very confident about coming to this area and, you know, having a very good life for you and your family, and for being very successful in your career. And, you know, life is what you make of it. You know, the Middle East is an area where, you know, you can come and have an amazing time and be safe and be happy and, you know, exceed in your career. And I, you know, yeah, could only speak highly of this region. So, yeah.
Perfect. No,
Great.
That's good. So we kind of wanted to then get to know you a little bit more. Obviously, we've had a few conversations around this type of thing, but I think this is a really good opportunity for us to dig deep into your gaming history and understand what makes you tick and what really sparked that initial interest in the industry. Because obviously you grew up with a very big interest in the industry. You wanted to pursue it from a education perspective, but also then moving into that esports genre as well. So we have these sets of questions that we normally ask, and we will run them past you as well. So I'm keen to understand what the first console or gaming system, shall we say, that you remember owning?
So it was the PlayStation 1. Yes, that was my first console. And yeah, I wasn't necessarily a massive gamer at that point. I just, like to play the PlayStation 1, of course. And, Crash Bandicoot was my go-to. Me and my brother were just, even then we were competing, on those games. And, I'd say the PlayStation 1, that was kind of when it started. And then it went from there. Moved on to the Xbox after that. So
I was going to ask, did you remain Sony or did you switch allegiances, shall we say? Because everyone has an allegiance. You're either team A or B.
Yeah.
I find very rarely you get both.
Both, yeah.
So
yeah. It was an allegiance to the Xbox, definitely, and for one main reason, and it was, the Master Chief, it was Halo, right? Because I saw that Halo was being released, and my dad bought me the Xbox, and when I first played Halo Combat Evolved, I was like, this is insane. Like, this is unbelievable. I was just like, I couldn't believe the sort of like the detail and the sort of scope of the game, how, the 3D graphics had just expanded, how, it was just a sort of immersive world where, you could just, do amazing things, right? And so, allegiance to Xbox, and it's been like that since, really. But, Halo's definitely like the reason why, and I love Halo. It's my favourite game of all time, for sure. So.
I was about to ask, what's the first game that you really fell in love with, but I feel like Halo might be the answer.
Yeah, I'd say, Halo, also Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PlayStation, right? That game as well was just, unbelievable. Only good memories of playing these games. And, I even bought the Metal Gear Solid game on Xbox recently as well, just to have another playthrough. When you go back and play a game sort of like that old, right, and you see how things have kind of moved on since what you say is like one of your favourite games of all time, and you're like, wow, you see how things have kind of progressed since then as well. So,
I was having this conversation with someone yesterday that from an industry perspective, the advancements in the last 20, 25 years from 8-bit games through to where we're at now with photorealism, obviously what we're expecting from GTA 6 when it comes out at the back end of this year, and from a graphics and a gameplay experience, there's not many industries that have evolved as much as the games industry. You look at films, you look at TV, yes, they may have been black and white, but there's not really, yes, your visual effects have improved, but they're very much computer game related. If you look at visual effects, a lot of them is associated to the same technology that was created within a games industry. So it's fascinating to see when you look at the graphics and the gameplay of those games that you remember in your childhood and how amazing they were. It's sometimes hard when you go back into them and go, this is not what I remember it was, because it has come so far, and it only threatens to go even further into advancements, which can't wait to see what they do with. And like I say, GTA 6 will be a trendsetter. Whatever they release will set the tone for future games of what those games will look like. And I know that that's due to come out this year, touch every pistol wood possible, but that's what is the big anticipation for most people. Again, if you're releasing a game within a window period of GTA 6, that's a pretty bolshy move as well, because most people will drop and run to GTA 6 upon sort of release. So I'm really intrigued.
I think there'll be a lot of holidays and sick days around that time period for the majority of the world.
I'm surprised yours is not in yet.
So it will be, as soon as the date's out, I'll be booking that off.
So keen to know from you what your favourite game of the last decade will have been.
I would have to say Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yep.
Just to kind of, you mentioned GTA there, like it's Rockstar Games. A lot of admiration for Rockstar, because their games, just the sort of fidelity, the scale, the quality of the games as well. Like, I just want to say with Rockstar as well, I love the fact that their games are not buggy. Like they have a QA studio that operates 24 hours a day, and I think you don't hear of a Rockstar game that's very buggy, right? No. That would be not good, and so Red Dead Redemption 2, very special game. It speaks to a man's redemption if needs be. So yeah, I think a lot to like about that game.
Based on what you said there, we'll give a shout out to a friend of the show, Steve.
Yeah,
From Rockstar. He's part of the QA team at Rockstar. That he'll be pleased to hear when you said it's not a buggy game. But also, obviously, I would fully agree with you on Red Dead Redemption 2. My favourite game of the last decade by a country mile. You've
Still
not
need to
played
play.
it,
Still
so
need to play. I've just got a Steam Deck, so I might download it and give that.
because it's pretty criminal that you've not played it yet.
Yeah,
so
100%.
I think that should be your first download on that one.
What was your favourite game? Sorry, what was the last game you purchased?
My last game that I purchased, I am on Game Pass at the moment, and so I am definitely utilising a lot of the games that go live on there. So and it's very, very good. I have to say the Game Pass, I really, really, really like that. I think it was Alan Wake 2. It might have been. I think so. Yeah, I think so. Good game. Yeah, good game. Haven't finished it yet, but yeah, good game.
I feel like some of the games that are coming out on your Game Passes or your PlayStation Plus now, the turnaround time from release through to available on those passes is very short, and it's good for a consumer. Like I know PlayStation Plus, I saw Suicide Squad from Rocksteady's on there now, which hasn't been out for a crazy amount of time. To be available on a platform like that, I think it's quite interesting how quick that turnaround is. Whether that based on the success of a game, whether how quick it gets through to that or not, maybe so. But I think that for someone who's not heavily invested in gaming and doesn't want to spend X amount of dollars or $100 on a game every time a new game comes out, because obviously the running joke within gaming is you never actually finish a game. You buy the next one before you've finished, and you end up with 10, 20 unfinished games. I'm guilty of all of that, like for instance. So I think having that opportunity to download games either for free or for cheap to really try them and see what they are all about is definitely a great opportunity for your more casual gamer, for sure. What game are you currently playing?
Well, I am brand new here, and so I decided against bringing my Xbox out with me for the time being.
Are you regretting that yet?
Potentially, yes. I will bring it out at some point. I think it was more of a luggage thing, right?
Yeah.
So Solitaire, as it goes. So that's what I'm playing on mobile.
You're taking it all the way back.
But yeah, I'd say not actually playing too much as of right now, but before I left, I was playing Cyberpunk 2077, which was absolutely extraordinary. Couldn't believe how good that game was. Speaks to sort of the ingenuity of the team at CD Projekt Red, like their mentality as a studio. Like I found the game to be very kind of like bold, emotional, mature as well. And the city was amazing, like amazing game, yeah, for sure. One of my favourite games, actually, I've got to say, Cyberpunk, and everyone should play it.
So you're going to have to up your mobile gaming until you get your...
I think so. I think that's kind of the next play for me. I'm going to just investigate some more mobile games, typically not so much of a mobile gamer, might have to be.
Well, we have Dominic from iBlocks joining us very soon, who's obviously have a mobile game releasing shortly. So I'm sure that he'll push you in his direction and get you to download his game.
What game are you most excited about? Upcoming release?
Grand Theft Auto 6. Definitely. I mean, every Grand Theft Auto game is just amazing, right? So, intrigued to see kind of the characters in that game, the scale of the game, the story, I'm
intrigued to see how big the map actually is going to be.
Yeah, I think the map
There's rumours around size and
intimidating, to say the least. Just thinking about it,
they talk about being like one of the biggest maps that they've done. But if you look at some of the old games, or even a Red Dead, how big the map was on Red Dead. Like if you wanted to go from one side to the next, you had to saddle up, and it was going to take you a good hour or so to get from one side to the next. So I'm intrigued to know the scale of how big they're making this.
Yeah, I think that there's a sort of worry that the game can get too big though, and I'm thinking of Assassin's Creed here, and I love Assassin's Creed. I've loved all their games, but I think recently, I think the scale of the map has been quite big, and I think it's very important that you keep it engaging as you're going through the map, of that size. Otherwise, it can kind of get a bit too big, in my opinion. So. Yeah. And just to speak to Cyberpunk, like you would kind of, it was on a very big map, of course, but you would be doing something that would lead into something else, and it would lead into something else in terms of the game mechanics changing as you were going through the game as well. So I think that's something which is very important to keep a player kind of like engaged, and that's the tough part of being a game developer, right? Coming up with those ideas, those design ideas and the mechanics, right? And so rather than making it just kind of going from here to just do this, to do that, like you're kind of just ticking boxes, it's kind of like, you're kind of sort of being enthralled as you're kind of going to and fro. Right?
A lot of side quest type of thing.
Yeah, lots of sort of
you want to prevent people from using the fast travel option as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like you want to actually make it so the player, I want to travel to that destination, not
I want to see what's
the quickest way for me to get there. Is there a way that I can skip everything and just arrive there? Yes, there's times where you're going to want to do that, but from a development perspective, like you mentioned, you want to engage the audience as much as possible so that they're happy to spend a period of time just getting there, but maybe get distracted on the way with this, that, the other. I think that's vitally important.
Yeah, I'd agree.
GTA 6 for me this year, hope and pray it comes out on time. I will be dedicating plenty of time to be playing that. Maybe
level up's just casually out of the office for a week.
Yeah, if you get a load of bounce backs on emails, it's we're occupied on that one. So, but obviously we've spoke about a few different games and stuff, but I was keen to understand from you, from a genre perspective, is there a particular genre? Obviously you grew up playing very highly competitive FIFA, then you talk around Cyberpunk, and then obviously we've had conversations around your Call of Duties and stuff like that. So is there a genre that you would prefer to pick up other than others? If there was a game coming out in a particular genre, or are you quite agnostic in terms of what you would look to play?
Yeah, I quite like narrative-driven games now. So as I've gotten older, I've definitely sort of started reading more books, and so I really like games that have a narrative, a story that develops as you go through. And so I played a game recently called Still Wakes the Deep, and it really struck me. The story was really kind of emotional and quite powerful, and so it appeals to me. A game which is actually going to hit me on an emotional level now. And so, I would say narrative is like a story-driven narrative game is quite important. Yeah. Edith Finch game as well. Was also similar. That sort of thing.
And that's why you've recommended Dwayne to go for Cyberpunk or Red Dead 2, I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, well,
cool.
Keen to find out. Next time we have a conversation, I want to hear that you've downloaded Red Dead.
I'm sure I downloaded one of them at some point.
You've got through the snow part at the start, which is, don't get me wrong, quite slow to start with. The sort of the initial part, that first 45 minutes would you say? Just getting to grips with the game, it can be a little on the slow side, but once you get beyond that, it's fantastic all the way through. So, well, we've kind of come to the end of the show for today. I think it was really good for us to get to know you on camera a little bit better and understand what got you into gaming, understand your journey with the likes of Mediatonic, with Epic, agency side, and obviously what you're looking to bring to this region. And me and Dwayne will both vouch for it, and hopefully the viewers that watch this will vouch for it, is this region last year took steps in the right direction in order to become that gaming hub that it's aiming to do. And we're really ambitious and we're really pumped for 2025 and what we're going to see from this region, and really keen for you to get involved with that as we all collectively try and sort of grow this ecosystem and make not just Dubai but the Middle East a true gaming hub within the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely echo that. And thank you so much for having me on today. It's been a real pleasure, and really excited to be here. And hopefully we can have a major success this year.
100%.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for tuning in for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned more about Michael. And we will see you again very soon.